Hi there, welcome to this beautiful spring sunny day. It has been so nice the last couple of days, so I thought I would get out here and get this video to you while we can enjoy the nice weather. My name is Nicole with Morning Chores, and today is the spring edition of our foraging series. Last year we did a summer edition followed by a fall edition. I did not get to the winter edition, unfortunately, so I will have to do that next year. But I thought it was perfect timing to walk you guys around the property and show you some new plants that I have found that are not only edible, but also beautiful. Let's head to the forest first and get started. Before we begin, I wanted to share with you the book that I'm using as a guide. This is called Midwest Foraging. This is a great book to use for identifying edible plants out in the wild. What I love about it is it has a section in the beginning where it's organized by season, so I can go to that section and look at all the plants that come up in the spring and then go back to the index to find that plant and learn all about it. But I do recommend that you find some kind of book to help you identify plants, preferably a book that has colored pictures, because again, it just helps identify things properly. This one is catered to the Midwest, although I think a lot of these plants you can find throughout the United States. But I highly recommend that you find a book that caters to your geographical location with your grow zone. So if you live in a tropical place, I would recommend finding a foraging book that caters to that. But like I said, most of the plants in this you can find throughout the United States. The first plant I want to share with you today is called chickweed. Chickweed is something that grows low to the ground and usually covers the floor of a forest. Sometimes you can find it in well-drained farmland. You can also find it in gardens, but this is a bright green plant that has a small white flower that contains 5 petals. And in the middle of the flower, there are little red dots for the pollen. But it's pretty easy to identify, and my book has a really nice picture of it right here. So that's always handy because you can compare. What's interesting about the chickweed is that it can actually come back in the fall. So it may die off in the summer months, but it can also come back. You can use it in salads, you can saute it up in an omelet or in stir fries, you can even add it to your smoothie. How you harvest chickweed is you just pinch it off at the stem, right at the base where it's coming up from the ground. You could also use kitchen scissors if you'd prefer, but I find it pinches pretty easily. The less stuff I have to carry in the woods, the better off. Now, one of my rules for foraging is I try to follow the rule of thirds. So when I am harvesting out in nature, I try to just harvest a third for myself, although there's way more than I could ever harvest here. But I try to just stick to harvesting a third for myself. I leave a third to propagate for the next year, and then I leave a third for nature and wildlife. Now that we have covered chickweed, let's head deeper into the woods and I'll show you another plant that I recently found. Next plant I discovered in my woods is garlic mustard. Garlic mustard is a bitter green, and it's okay to eat it before it flowers. Once it flowers, then you don't want to harvest. You can harvest the whole plant by digging it up out of the soil, or you can just harvest the leaves. It's interesting, but I guess one of the best ways to use garlic mustard is to make a pesto with it. So you just chop up those leaves really fine and add the rest of the ingredients to make a really yummy pesto. Garlic mustard is also really high in vitamin C and other minerals. It was first recorded in the mid-1800s along the Atlantic coast. It is said that settlers brought it here to the United States for food and medicinal purposes, and now you can pretty much find it all over the United States. This is considered a biennial plant, so it does not flower every single year, only every second year. It is a little bit bitter, but I can see how it would be delicious in a pesto. In one of my previous foraging videos, I discussed ramps, but this is the time of year to harvest ramps. They come up in usually early spring, and my forest is covered in them in this section right here. I am seeing them in other areas. There's some behind the camera here and also off to my right, but this is the area where they really grow and thrive. And What I love about ramps is it's basically like a wild onion. You use it in your cooking just like an onion, but again, you don't want to harvest all the ramps out of your forest. You need to leave some behind so they propagate. And so that's what I've been trying to do, is I leave a lot behind, and now I have a really good crop going on in my forest. But it smells like onion and it tastes like an onion. A little bit sweeter though. It has a sweetness to it that onions don't have. I actually prefer this flavor to a regular onion. And to use in your cooking, you just use them like you would onions. You can saute them, add them to salads, whatever you like onions in. This is a nice alternative. I believe it was in my summer foraging video, I talked a lot about dandelions and violets. But these usually pop up in early spring, and this is when they taste the best. The dandelions become more bitter as the season and the year goes on. So if you want to eat them, the best time is in the spring, early spring. But dandelions are so versatile. You can harvest and eat the entire plant from the flower down to the root. You can use the flower heads in salads. You can saute it up in stir fries. You can use the leaves in salads. You can use the roots. You can dry them and make an alternative to coffee. They're really versatile, and they're high in vitamins and minerals. And just also, the violet is also high in vitamins and minerals. The violet is also nutrient dense, and again, you can use it in salads. I've even seen people freeze these in ice cubes and add it to things like iced tea or lemonade, and it just makes it for a really pretty presentation, especially with the yellow and the purple. So there's lots of fun things you can do, and this is something that's easy for kids to forage because usually it's just right in your yard. Now, if you spray or treat your grass, then I would highly recommend not harvesting these things, and more than likely you will not have dandelions in your yard if you spray. So that's the one benefit to not spraying, is that you have all kinds of food readily available right outside your front door. The last early spring plant that I wanted to discuss today is asparagus. Asparagus is something you can find wild, usually in a wetter area along the banks of a forest or something like that. I have this actually planted in my garden. This is something that I ordered and I planted, and I love it because it's super low maintenance and it comes up every year, and every year I get a little bit more. Asparagus is super delicious. It's super high in minerals. I learned this from a guy named Paul Gauchke, who pioneered the back-to-eating garden method, and he explained that asparagus roots actually go down 12 to 13 feet deep. And what they're doing is they're extracting those really rich minerals from deep down in the soil. And this is the first thing that comes up in the spring. And if you think, before the modern day and before electricity, you usually ate a lot of canned fruits and vegetables or root vegetables. And by the end of winter, you were pretty much running low on all those things. So the very first thing that comes up is asparagus, and what is it? It's mineral dense, so it's what your body needs after a long winter, eating mostly canned goods and root vegetables. So I love that. I just think it's really awesome, the design and all of that. So how you harvest this is when it first comes up, you preferably want the asparagus to be pencil thick. So this one is a little thicker, and sometimes you just can't help it. It's just how it comes up, but I just pinch it at its base, just like this. And you also don't want to let it get too tall. Like this one still needs to grow. This one right here got too tall. I let it go. You do have to check it every day, and I haven't checked it for a couple of days. You can still eat it. It's just when it gets really tall like that, it gets what's called woody. So you can see this one's not snapping off very easily. So I gotta go up here where it does snap off. So, and when they get woody, they get really chewy, and it's just hard to eat. But I can still use this. And you can just eat it just like this. Super delicious, fresh. I love asparagus. My favorite way to eat asparagus is I like to saute it up with mushrooms and onions, and either eat it like that with salt and pepper or put it on top of scrambled eggs. You hear that, ladies? Scrambled eggs. Thanks for the eggs. Thank you for joining me in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something new. You can also check out those other foraging videos linked in the description box below. It's always fun to just get out and walk your property. If you could do it daily, weekly, just getting familiar with your property, whether you have a quarter of an acre or 100 acres. And if you live in an apartment, then find your local parks, your state parks. It's just really refreshing and calming and just enjoyable to walk around your property in different seasons and just truly learn what you have and what's there, how everything works. I mean, I've noticed on my own property that I have these microclimates. You know, I've got kind of a swampy land down in that corner. We've got the forest. We have a field in the back, and I've even noticed spots on my property where it's a little cooler. Even if it's just by a degree or two, I can feel it when I walk in that area. The temperature kind of drops, and it's just interesting. It's really fascinating. I just think nature is amazing. So get out there and explore the nature, and you might find some yummy things along the way. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you on the next one.